Hello everyone, Mr. Msei here, back with another lap guide for round 2 of the Nations Cup 2024 exhibition season. We're in the Suzuki Cappuccino uncomfort soft tires. Now there are a couple things I want to note. With the Cappuccino, you shift at around 7,000 RPM, so this is just before the shift bar starts to fill up. So you're shifting up at around 67 miles per hour and around 89 to 90 miles per hour. The other thing, please avoid getting penalties, because even a half-second penalty is going to cost you quite a bit of time with this low-powered car. If you serve a half-second penalty, you in reality actually lose about 1 second. If you get a 1 second penalty, you in reality lose about 2 seconds, and yeah, you really do pay the price because you serve the penalty on the back straight. Now for this little bit of the track, you can take a bit of a narrow line since you're in a slower car, and you can just go through this part flat out. Now for this first sector, you can pretty much just get away with staying on 4th gear the entire time, so it'll save you from losing a bit of time shifting around. Now bring yourself towards the left, because for turn number 1, you're using the start of the grass on the left as your turning point. You're just lifting off our throttle and slowly turning in. If you need to use the brakes, use it sparingly so you don't scrub off too much speed. And you're trying to use as much of the width of the track to try to maintain your speed, just trying to be smooth through turn number 1. Now for turn number 3, there are a couple braking points you can use. The start of the sign on the left, just before you cross the white dashed lines, or when you're halfway across the curb on the left. You're going to be at full braking power for a short moment, turn in when the curb on the left ends, and quickly ease off of the brakes and carefully get back on the throttle. Yeah, you're really playing with track limits here. So here, my left wheels are just barely on that yellow and blue curb, and you don't want to cross that because just crossing that little bit can get you a 1 to a 1.5 second penalty. So you're kind of just playing with fire over here. And you do want to be careful getting back on the throttle, because if you're a little too aggressive, you do risk going wide like how I do over here. So you can play just a little more safe to avoid going wide and to avoid getting that track penalty. Now for turn number 5, which is this left turn right here, you're braking when you're halfway into the curb on the right, and you're using the end of the curb on the right as your turning point. Stay on 4th gear, quickly ease off of the brakes, and you want to be careful getting back on the throttle. You do not want to cross this line with your left tires, because that will get you about a half-second penalty. And as I mentioned earlier, penalties will cost you quite a bit of time, so you're trying to avoid getting those track penalties. Now for turn number 6, you're braking before you reach the 200 feet line. You're going to be at full braking power for a short moment and use that 200 feet line as your cue to start to turn in. You can get away with being on 4th gear and just be nice and careful getting back on the throttle so you don't understeer onto the grass. And just after you complete turn number 6, you're going to brake for turn number 7. So this is where you shift down to 3rd gear, use full braking power for a short moment, and turn in just before the curb on the left ends. You can get the car to slide just a little bit over here, which can help with the turn in. And as soon as you're pointing towards the next section of the track, you want to get on the throttle as soon as you can. And again, you shift at around 7,000 RPM, so this is just before the shift bar on the bottom of the screen starts to fill up. Here's a penalty serving zone, so yeah, please don't get a penalty because you're definitely going to regret it. Anyways, 90 miles per hour, go ahead and shift up to 5th gear, bring yourself towards the right, and your final braking point is the 100 meter line. You're braking as close as you can to it and quickly make your way down to 3rd gear. You'll be using the end of the curb on the right as your turning point. Now you want to be a little careful here, because when you start to ease off the brakes as you're turning in, so doing a bit of trail braking, the car will start to turn in a bit more, maybe even to a point where you're letting the car coast, so no braking, no throttle input. Just be careful about the car turning in too much as a result of that and end up picking a 1 second penalty from that. And just get on the throttle as soon as you can as you exit the chicane. And as I mentioned earlier, you can take a bit of a narrow line since we are in slow cars, and go ahead and cross the start finish line. We'll go through this again, but this time I will not stop the video. So I'm going to go ahead and bring myself towards the left. Gonna stay on 4th gear instead of shifting up to 5th gear because shifting up will cost a bit of time. So just stay on 4th gear through here. Lift off our throttle for turn number 1. Just trying to maintain as much momentum as possible. Getting really close to the grass. Brake when you're halfway into the curb for turn number 3. Quick burst of braking. Just trying to maintain as much momentum as possible. Be a bit careful through here as it's really easy to overshoot it. Kind of like how I do over here. The S's are flat out. Then brake when you're halfway into the curb on the right. Just trying to maintain as much momentum as possible. Be careful about going wide through turn number 5 so you don't pick up a half-second penalty. Turn number 6, you're braking before the 200 feet line. You can stay on 4th gear, and then just after you complete turn number 6, go ahead and brake for turn number 7. Go down to 3rd gear. The car might slide around a little bit, but you can use that to help the car turn around a little bit faster, and then get back on the throttle as soon as you can. Shift up just before the bar on the bottom of the screen fills or starts to fill up, so at around 7,000 RPM. And yeah, go ahead and take a breather through here. Here's a penalty steering zone. Please do not get a penalty because you will regret it. And go ahead and shift up again. Go up to 5th gear. Bring yourself towards the right if you haven't done so yet. Your final braking point is as close as you can to the 100 feet board. Go down to 3rd gear. Slowly easing off the brakes as you're turning in. Getting back on the throttle as soon as you can. And go ahead and take a bit of a shorter line as we are in a slower car. So eventually we're going to go ahead and cross the finish line. Give it a moment. And there we go, getting a 151.8. Good luck in your race. This is Mr. MCA, and I'll see you in the next video.